Do you sometimes make absent-minded decisions which ultimately lead to you being a lesser version of yourself and creating a dissatisfying place in your life? If you do, watch out, because I've got an interesting story to share with you. So I've got this running business, and one thing I try to do in my running business is create environments that ultimately take people to places that they can't get to by themselves. And there's a few ways we do it. First of all, it's group training exercise. And I fundamentally believe that when people train in groups, there's just something that motivates people to higher levels. There's coaches at every session, so we're giving you lots of information on how to be a better runner. We're trying to motivate you in those environments as well. So as you can see, we've kind of set up the conditions so that if you come into my world, we're just going to help you achieve things that you can't do by yourself. And that's what happens. People join our groups, they get PBs, they lose weight, they get faster, they just achieve better things in their fitness environments. But then sometimes what happens is people disappear from our environments. And it's really funny when you work in fitness, because when you work in fitness, you get people who you see often. Often I say that I often see people more than their family will see them. Maybe not the people who live with them, but their uncles and aunties and their grandparents and so on. And because when you work in fitness, you can often see people 4 or 5 times a week. And then what happens is people will just disappear. And you don't really know why they disappear. They just kind of disappear, and you might kind of see them in the future somewhere and you go, oh, what happened to that person? Well, this happened a few months ago. We had a lady in our group who'd been running with us for a few years, had achieved amazing things with her running, was doing so well with her running, and then kind of just disappeared. And I'll admit, I kind of just forgot, because that's kind of how it rolls. And then she kind of disappeared for about 6 months. And then last Wednesday morning, we started our new winter half marathon group, and she was there. And I said, oh, where have you been? We haven't seen you in a while. And she said, Bevan, you know what? About 6 to 8 months ago, I kind of thought to myself, I'm really enjoying my running. I want to save a little bit of money. So I'm going to kind of quit the group because I know I can do it by myself. Now, her motivation at that time was to save a little bit of money. And I'm going to be honest, our memberships are pretty cheap. It's only like $23 a week, so it's not that expensive. And she could afford that money, but obviously she just thought, I can save a little bit. I can do it by myself. So she pulled away from a high performance environment for a reason which was kind of being a little bit cheap and thinking she was very self-motivated. But once she quit the group, she basically slowly went down in her levels with her running. And she said, what was really interesting, Bevan, was my running became basically no intensity. I just got outdoor. If I was running, it was always easy running. I often was missing sessions. I was losing my fitness. I don't know if she put on weight or not, but those downward effects of fitness were happening in her life. And this is a really interesting moment, because she kind of made an absent-minded decision. I can save a little money. I can do this by myself. But she didn't consider the bigger picture of being in our environment. Like, when she's in our environment, she achieves higher levels. She goes to places that she can't get to, and she gets much better results in that place. So when she made the decision to pull away from the group, she didn't contemplate, what's the cost of me pulling away from this group? And ultimately, she had to go through the experience of those costs to realize that she needed to get back to the group. Now, this is something we can see a lot in people's lives. And we see it a lot in people's lives who often will go through a short transformational period. So what they'll do is, actually I see it a lot with our Get Up to 5 group. So our Get Up to 5 group is a beginner running group. And people who do our Get Up to 5 group do really well, and they run 5Ks. And I often think my job is to get them running after 18 months, because if I can get someone from doing nothing to running for 18 months, they stick at exercise for a real long term. But sometimes you get people who do our group, and they'll do it once, we get into the goal of running 5Ks, they've been doing no exercise for a while, and then I say, do you want to join the next group? Because we want to keep you on your pathway. And they go, oh, no, I think I can do this by myself. Now, what happens? Well, they basically go back to square one. And I'm not quite sure why they don't just stick with what we do. But obviously they're making a decision in that moment to move away from a successful environment, which ultimately means that they go back to square one. And often you do see these people in the future, and they say, oh, I left the group, and life got busy, and I end up losing all the fitness, and I need to get back to your group again. So what's the lesson in this? Well, I think one thing we've got to think about is, when you're looking at the areas of your life that create higher level self, what are the environments or the things that create that for you? It might be great mentorship, it might be environments, it might be the way you educate yourself, whatever. You need to understand what those areas are. Once you've got a clear understanding of what those areas are that create that higher level self in your life, when you're thinking about pulling away from those areas, really do the assessment of what's the cost of me pulling away from that area. And ideally, there needs to be a better solution if you're going to pull away from that area. So if you were to leave our running group and go to another running group, which was, I don't know, maybe a high level running group or whatever, then that might be a good choice. Or you're going to a different sport, which also has another high level environment. That would be a good choice. But to think I'm going to leave a high level environment to aim to do it by myself in an unmotivated way, that means you're choosing to go to be a lesser version of yourself. And so probably my key lesson today is, first of all, understand the areas that create a higher version of yourself. Now, if you have none, try to find them in your life. Then once you've found them, aim to stick at them because they work. And then if you're thinking about pulling away from them, understand the motivation. If it's just about saving a little bit of money and you can afford to stick at it, stick at it. Or at least if you're going to move away from them, you should be replacing them with like for like or new environments that are going to take you to a higher level. Like, one of the things we often talk about is if we want to create massive change in our life, the number one key is consistency. But it's consistency of a high level which creates the ultimate change that we want. And amazing environments are what do this. So if you are somebody who absent-mindedly creates lesser versions of yourself, be aware of this and make sure you don't move away from environments that help you be that higher version. If you enjoy my pieces and you want to bring exercise into your life, you need to check out my book, I Will Make You Passionate About Exercise. This book is designed to be a step-by-step journey that teaches you the right lessons and experiences to guide bringing exercise into your life, not just for a moment, but where you get to the place where you have a long-term love of exercise. So you get fitter, you get healthier, you have great stress releases, and you feel amazing about yourself. This book has been hugely successful, getting to the top 10 in the world for health and fitness books. So if it's time for you to bring health and fitness into your life, go to Passion About Exercise, click on the link, go through the process, and you can be starting your journey of finding your love for exercise really soon.